Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, Control or Be Controlled, a podcast that is designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. This podcast is the ultimate guide to becoming a better person and understanding life in different areas. I remain your host, Darlington Obuka. Today's guest is Hilary, a transformational mentor, trauma coach, and speaker with over 40 years of experience, helping people rebuild their lives and step into what they are meant to be. Her journey started in the entertainment industry at a young age, but behind the scenes, she faced deep struggles with trauma and addiction. Through her own healing, she transformed her life and now helps others turn pain into purpose. Hilary works especially with women to move from surviving to thriving, using real life experience and practical tools to create lasting change. Hilary, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate you allowing me to share on your platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Okay, hi, you guys. My name is Hillary Mompere-Patters, and just a little backstory of who I am. I am a transformational mentor. I call myself an elder. I do trauma coaching. I guide women from their traumas, giving them power, the getting them back with their power, how to stabilize the trauma in the day that they're in, so they can enjoy the moments without living in their yesterdays. And I have my own modality where I have a coaching platform where I guide women to getting in touch with themselves and also their God. I don't want to be their God or their guru. I want them to get in touch with who they are so they can live comfortably with their old traumas and not let them guide you into your next decisions. So I grew up in the film industry. We all think that if you have that stuff going on and you have this big full life in the film world, that your life's easy. But in fact, it created a character that learned how to live with a mask, learned how to not talk about our feelings, learned how to detach, disconnect, and be what other people wanted me to be. And I lost touch with myself. I was the voice of Sally and Charlie Brown Peanuts at a young age. So I learned how to be a character. And, later on in my teen life, I became a character, so to speak. Growing up as a cartoon, I was Sally, like I said, Charlie Brown Peanuts. And in my childhood, my mother was a stage mother and a narcissist and an alcoholic. So no matter what I did, it never satisfied her. So I grew up started developing this young character of always being afraid of not being good enough, not doing enough, pleasing you. I became a people pleaser, and that became my trauma response. Whenever anything was scary, I would become a pleaser. And that works cute for a minute, but when you bring that into your teenage years and your adult years, you're never really living in self, because I'm so trying to anticipate who I'm supposed to be next to make you happy. And, as a child, I grew up around a lot of alcohol abuse and violence and, physical abuse, emotional abuse. And, from the outside, it looked like my life was pretty awesome because we had a pretty family. We looked good, and, the outsides were more important than the insides. And, by the time I was in my 11 and 12, and my career started dwindling down because I no longer wanted to be this toy. My mother would call me her toy. And, I started rebelling. That's where my trauma response was no longer people pleaser. I became a loner, which means I started running away. I started, defying my mother. I hid out, I found drugs and alcohol, and that became my new spirit. I was so broken as a spirit as a kid that when I found drugs and alcohol, I became somebody else, and I was dying to become somebody else because I really hated who I was. Because I never thought I could satisfy my family. I could never make enough money, do enough. And so when I found alcohol, it became my savior. It really helped me get to my next step, you know. Unfortunately, my drinking and using turned into alcoholism, which becomes a mind-powered disease. I then lost the power of choice. I thought I was choosing alcohol, but after a while, it started choosing me, and it destroyed my life, meaning it destroyed me from the inside out. By the time I was 21 years old, I had left school at 14, and I didn't want to follow anybody's, rules. I was so defiant, like I said. I went to 7 high schools, never graduated. I ended up getting arrested for assault and battery because I started hitting my mother back because I got tired of being beaten. And I ended up in juvenile hall. From juvenile hall, I went into foster homes. And, from the outside, you're thinking, oh my God, how did this kid who had life at her fingertips and everything destroy it? Well, I wasn't living on the outside. I was actually operating from the inside. And my insides were broken. My insides were always thinking, I'm not enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. Who cares? And because of those thoughts that were driving me in the day that I was in, meaning my fear, my trauma was making all my decisions, of course my life fell apart. So by the time I was 21, I had prayed and I had said, God, if you love me, kill my mother and father and put me in a new home, because I was using God as Santa Claus, as my wish list, not knowing that I needed to align my will with God's will. I was hoping he would fix me. I wanted something to rescue me, something to take me out of my pain. And what I ended up doing is I ended up going to people, places, and things, hoping, I joke around and say, are you my daddy? Are you going to fix me? So I placed myself in positions to be hurt with men, with food, with shopping, with spending money, with drugs and alcohol, until I finally hit a bottom. And, we talk about helping people so they don't hit their bottom. But, hitting my bottom was my greatest gift, because I was left with no other alternative but to look up and say, please, God, help me not die. And I was sitting on a fire escape in Venice, and I went into a grand mal seizure, and I looked up and I said, God, I don't think I want to die. I just don't know how to live. And my grand mal seizures stopped. And I would love to say I found God and my life went uphill from there, but it didn't. It was just the first time that hard shell of fear, of self, and of ego-driven survival skills cracked, and the light came in. And that's where God finally entered me. And it was a lot of work every day, surrendering to this will that I didn't understand. I didn't know, but I kept saying, God, I don't know who you are, what you are, but please help me not kill myself. And from there, in my 20s, I grew like a sieve. I was so thirsty for stabilization. I was so thirsty for some spiritual experience, because my spirit was so broken and I needed something other than Hilary to help give me this gift of life again. And grace was set upon me. Grace is not given forever. If you don't keep it up and if you don't keep surrendering, you lose it. So I stayed thirsty, and I still stay thirsty. And over the years, I have had, I've been in recovery for, I'm in my 60s, and I call myself a transformational mentor, because I'm an elder. I have learned so much through so many past mistakes. And the biggest gift in my life is not to get, but it's be able to give and share my experience that I have gone through therapy, through, getting myself back to school and going back to college and getting my nursing degree and going to get my arts degree and film degree and learning that I have such a gift of connection, but I can't keep it unless I give it away. So I've been given that gift of being able to communicate and to share with women, to help them get in touch with their God that's going to propel them and have a life that they can't even imagine. My life is amazing. And I'm not talking my outside life. That's my living. I'm talking about my inside life, because I have learned how to stabilize myself when my trauma comes up in the day that I'm in and tap into an unsurpassable source I call God. And that has allowed me to have this life where I feel safe, I feel secure, I feel stabilized, even when shit goes down. Like, we live in a weird world right now, that if I keep looking in the outside to make me feel good, it'll never be satisfied because I'm tapping into my ego. But if I tap into my inside source and I know that everything is fine, that nobody gets out of here alive, that as long as I allow myself to stay still, I will transcend into my next experience still. So I teach women how to do that. That's a little bit about myself.
Okay, thank you very much, Hilary. So I have some questions here for you. Let's get into
Yes.
it. What does reinvention mean to you now at this stage of
Yes. You know, I feel like God has given us a uh, a whole. I call it. I have a little ebook called the Hope Chest, and it's almost like our Maker has given us so many different desires inside of us. And when we live on the outside, we see with our eyes and we think, I should be that, I should be that. That'll make me feel okay. But when you learn how to tap inside, there's so much about us that I can reinvent myself any day. The minute I say, I don't think so, my mind closes. But if I say, I don't know, maybe, I start tapping into this power that enlightens me to seeing that I can be anything. I can do anything. If I'm not happy, why can't I be happy? Because my mind tells me so. But when I tap into my heart, everything is possible. It's pretty awesome. So I help I help people find out that there's so much inside of them. Let's go down there. It's scary to go deep down into your basement where all those past hurts are driving you in the day you're in. But I go with you to examine them to see that, you know what? Life is good. Life is really good if I stop looking with my eyes and I start looking with my heart. So reinventing yourself is not really reinventing yourself. It's just tapping into the person that you already are, which is bountiful, expansive, like God. Because when I tap into that source, anything is possible.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So let's get into the next questions I have for you. The other question I have for you is this, Hilary. How did your early experience in acting and writing shape the way you connect with audience today?
Well, you know, when you're having an interpersonal relationship with somebody, if you don't understand who you are inside, how can you present that to somebody? How can you gift that part of you to somebody? So, by me looking at me acting, meaning I'm playing a part and seeing that no longer drives me, I start actually tapping into who I am, which I've learned how to do through writing, through free writing, and saying, God, please guide my pen. Who am I? By me being able to tap into that, then I have a gift to share somebody. Otherwise, I'm giving you what I think I am instead of sharing with you who I really am.
Okay. So looking back now, What was one of the most difficult seasons you went through, and how did that change you?
Oh my gosh, it's like the chicken or the egg. Oh my God, I have a good season, but you know, in my 30s, when I thought I was supposed to be something, and I started successfully back in the film world, working on movies, I was no longer acting in front of it. I'd taken a break and I was working behind the scenes. I really thought that if I started accomplishing things, that I would not hurt anymore. And so it was a big realization that no matter what I did on the outside, if I don't love and take care of that inner child, that little hurt little girl that I had neglected, I kept thinking, when I get over there, I'll be happy. Over there, I'll be happy. When I realized that over there doesn't exist, that only right here, right now, was a really huge turning point. And from that moment, I knew that no matter what, I would be okay. That was my,
Okay.
that was my biggest turning
So that's wonderful. So I would like to ask, for people who are faced with the same challenges as you from their young age, what is something that you think has led them into this, and how can they come out from it in a practical way?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? How can I what? I'm
Like,
sorry.
how can they come out from those who have the same trauma as you from their young age? How can they come out from it in a practical way?
I talk about God gave us the gift of our senses. And unfortunately, we align our senses with the outsides, our seeing, our tasting, our touching, our hearing, and our feeling. That once you realize that if you take power over those wonderful gifts and you start learning how to stabilize yourself in the day you're in, meaning when something comes up and it reminds, puts back in your mind something that terrible that's happened, if you can stabilize yourself, like breathe, there's breathing techniques, you drink water, am I eating right, am I sleeping right, I start stabilizing my senses, then I can tap into that sixth sense, which I call God, and that energy can guide me to my next indicated step instead of me like reacting in a reactive state. Start responding. And we have that power. We're just taught that someone else has got to do it for you. But when you tap into that God centered source, you can do it if you're aligned with that power, and you can start creating the life that you really want and actually were birthright to deserve.
So, looking back now, what was one of the most difficult seasons you went through, and how did it change you?
The gift of surrender. I call that when you hit a bottom, when you just go, I can't do this anymore. I always say when I'm working with women and they say, oh my God, my life is at the bottom, I always say, congratulations. Now you're no longer going to use your tricks and up your sleeve. You'll do whatever you need to do to not live in your power. So the gift of hitting bottom, desperation is one of the greatest gifts, because at that point, I can't want something more until I realize I hate what I have. Like that duality, once I start using that as a guide instead of as black and white, bad and good, right, left, red, blue, when I start seeing life as there's gray zones, that's when I start to thrive. That's when I start living instead of existing. That's when I start using my inside life to have the fullness. That's pretty much where, I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense to me. And I show people how to do that. Did I lose you? Hello? Hey, did we disconnect for some reason?
Yes, yes, but I'm back now. Can you hear me?
It's okay. I guess your
Can you hear me?
internet. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So my next question for you is, you often speak about service over fame. Why is that distinction so important to you?
Um, when service, oh my gosh, talking about, we always think that when happiness is on the outside, but when I am of service and I give without wanting anything in return, I get that joy, which is like, oh my God, that's the drug that I've always wanted. I wanted to get that hit, that high, that dopamine that I got from shopping, sex, men, food, acting, power, money. It never really satisfied me because that's coming from my ego and it's never satisfied. So when I tap into that inner source and say, God, how can I be of service? I tap into a joy that's just so intoxicating. And there's nothing more fulfilling than helping or being of service to another human being that has hit their bottom. And by allowing, be having this gift to be able to communicate and have them tap into their source, man, that is rich.
So for someone who feels stuck in the middle of their
Are you
story,
there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hmm.
Hi, can you hear
I
me?
think you got knocked out again.
I'm here. I'm here. Hello?
Hi, did you get disconnected? Did you get that?
I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, yeah. I'm here.
Okay.
So for someone who feels stuck in the middle of their story, unsure of what comes next, how do you guide them forward?
How do they get a hold they get attacked? I'm sorry, what was that? How do they get a hold of me? Is that what you're saying?
No, for someone who feels stuck in the middle of their story and unsure of what comes next, how would you guide them forward?
I would bring them, for someone who's stuck in the day they're in, I would have them stop for a moment and start right. I would say them start looking at what they are grateful for, like for their life, for being healthy, for having a family. You start really identifying what you have right here, right now. Because when I'm stuck, it's because I'm thinking of yesterday or I'm trying to be in tomorrow. And I'm not in the moment. So when we start identifying what we're grateful for in the moment we're in, we start seeing that everything is actually okay. That the reality is my mind is living in yesterday. But if I can bring my heart into the moment, I stabilize. My seeing, my tasting, my touching, my hearing, my feeling. If I get out there and put my feet in sand or in grass, I start realizing that I'm right here, right now. Everything is okay. So I would suggest that when you're in that moment of like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore, take a breath, get into your breathing, and start saying, I am grateful for. Thank you, God, for. And then I realize that my mind is not safe, my life is. So I start tapping into my heart where actually that source of joy sits.
Okay. Hilary, I believe that major transformation comes from daily practices or daily habits. So, like, what are some daily practices or habits that helped you stay grounded, especially during transition times?
Before I get up in the morning, I have to. I try not to move in my when I wake up in the morning. I try to keep my eyes closed because I don't want to change my thoughts. When I see something, it changes me, and I pray, and I tap into this power I call God, whatever your God may be. Tap into it, and I start saying, "Thank you so much for this wonderful day ahead of me. Today is the best day ever." I set my first intention tapped into a power greater than me. Because if I tap into me and I open my eyes and I start thinking about the day I'm in, oh my God, I got to do this and I got to do this and I haven't done that, all of a sudden my day's wrecked. So I make sure the first thing I do is I talk to God and I say, God, thank you so much for this day ahead of me. It's going to be the best day. How can I best serve you today? And then I open my eyes and I say the Lord's Prayer. I put the armor of God on and I say, this is going to be the best day ever. And it's so interesting. What I tell myself, I create. So I am pretty powerful, but I don't want to tap into my ego power because, like I said, it's never satisfied. If I tap into my power with a power greater than me, I call God, my life is unstoppable. Anything is possible. So that's how I start my mornings.
Okay, Hilary, you are very, very particular about God. So I wanted to ask, do you think it is possible for someone to achieve what you achieved without God?
Um, you know, you can achieve for so far, but like I said, when you're left to your own devices and you're just relying on self, it's just not satisfied. Like nothing is good enough. But when I tap into my God, which, I think people can live without God, but I think it's an empty life because God is love. And why do I want to live a life without love? Because love is really where the power is.
Okay, so here's my final question for you, Hilary. For
Yes.
anyone who is listening right now, who feels like it is too late for them to start over or pursue something new, what would you say to them?
Oh, that's all bullshit. Why can't you? Says who? Who's telling you those things? Who is telling you it's too late? And usually the answer is I am. Well, usually the I am that's talking is actually not the real I am, it's the little hurt I am. So if you're listening to your mind, let's put that aside for a moment. Let's write down all the things you desire. And then write down, thank you, God, for giving it to me. And watch and see how your life can start blossoming in the minute, in the moment. Like there is no time. Time is yesterday and tomorrow. But if I stay in the moment, I can create anything right here, right now. So I would suggest start there.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for being my guest on this wonderful podcast and this episode as well. I enjoyed every bit of this interview I had with you. So before you go, where can my audience learn more about you, about your work, and connect with you as well?
Yes. Well, you guys, you can always contact me. I have you can just go ahead and go on, if you want to have I open up for a 15-minute consultation and maybe I can help you or I can guide you somewhere. But if you go on to meetwithhillary.coach, we can set up a little consultation or you can contact me on my website, which is www.hillary, Hilary, Momberger, Momberger, Powers, Powers.com. And we can connect there. And like I said, if I can't help you, allow me to help you find somebody because we all deserve to have a really great life inside. And if I can help you get there, I'd love to.
So thank you very much once again. Thank you. Yeah, earlier I mentioned earlier that you are more focused on women. So I wanted to know, and I'm sure some of those who are listening right now who are men want to know if they are also open to connecting with you and you helping them. Because I myself, I would also want to connect with you because I have some similarities about what you have been through and how you have transformed your life. And I will need the same for myself. So I want to know for us, for we men, are we also going to be having the same privileges as the women?
Yeah, that's so funny. I prefer to work with women because I know women really well. And, sometimes, we start depending on the opposite sex to fix us, but I can guide you, I can help you a little bit, but I also encourage them to find another man because I don't know what it's like being a man. I know what it's like being a woman. And I know my power in being a woman. I don't know my power being a man, but I can guide you as much as I can and guide you to someone that can help you. So,
Okay, thank you very much. That's very understandable. Hilary, this has been a powerful and a honest conversation with you so far. Thank you for sharing your story and the wisdom you have gained through it. Thank you very much.
well, thank you so much for inviting me. And I wish you all the best. And I say, I hope you tap into that God. God is just waiting to have a conversation with you people.
Thank you very much. To everyone listening, as she has said, if there's one thing to take away from this, it is this. Your past doesn't have to control your future. You have the power to rewrite your story. Until next time, take control or be controlled. See you in the next episode.
All right. God bless you.
God bless you, Larry.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me.